Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of On Point, another solo episode. This will probably be the last solo episode for a little while, unless I hear differently from you guys and you guys are like, no, keep doing that. But this is going to be the last hunt recap that I'm going to do for now, and this is my last hunt. So this is basically going to be Blacktail, and man, I bittersweet this year. To be honest with you, Blacktail really kicked my ass. I mean, I watch some dudes I know and I follow them. They're great hunters like Corey Hart, and he was passing up blacktails that are bigger than any blacktail I've ever shot, and he's passing up 4, 5, 6 of them and waiting for an absolute giant. And you had guys that had years like that where they did kill 140 class blacktail ish, and you had guys like me who went out, and isn't a slob at blacktail hunting or deer hunting in general. I know I'm not a complete piece of crap when it comes to deer hunting. At least in the past, I haven't been. And man, I struggled. I probably went out 15 times, 12 to 15 times this year. I'd say 15 times solid, and for blacktail, and I didn't record every time I went out on Hunt League because some of them were just 2-hour long hunts. But I'd go and go to spots I know there was bucks and knew had seen them in velvet, had seen them maybe throughout the year or whatever, or had buddies that had been seeing them and reporting back to me what they saw. And so I know that there was bucks in the area, and the area was getting pressured, but not a lot, and just was not seeing deer. I saw a couple spikes. I'd see an average of about 6 does every trip, and, just was hunting some real beautiful country and covered some ground, but basically hunting the same 10 square miles that I was hunting every day, just in and out, just close to home, could get up there after work, could go hunt some really good-looking units, and felt like I had a good chance at finding one of those big bucks that I knew was in there, and it just never happened. And it was, to put it this way, the last branch buck I had seen was in the heart of bow season. That had been the last branch buck I had seen in blacktail for blacktail since the buck I shot, which was like 2 or 3 days before the end of season. That's over a month, I believe, of without seeing a branch buck, which is really bad. I mean, really bad. For as much as I was out and even just working out and about working, wasn't seeing bucks. I mean, some on private, yeah, but where I could hunt them, none. And so long story short, I was just getting a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth. I'm like thinking, what in the hell happened? And another factor that I do need to throw out there, my main hunting area that I like is down south towards Canyonville. And the fact now, I'll talk about it. People might get a little pissy about it, but the fact of the matter is that hunting as you know it down there in the Canyonville area towards Azalea, Galesville, has drastically changed this year for access. Chinook had purchased a property. It was over 60,000 acres worth of lands, not all public lands. Most of it was Roseburg Lumber that they used to own it. Chinook bought it, and they're not allowing access. And that was thousands of acres. I mean, miles of land that I had hunted for years, that, my wife killed her biggest buck down there. Some of the biggest bucks I've seen have been down there. A lot of my buddies will go down there. And granted, it's a circus down there a lot of times. There's a million people. But if you can hit it on a good day and you know how to glass, you can find a good buck. And that's just that really screwed me this year, honestly, because they weren't allowing access. I rely very heavily on that area. The other areas that I hunt here locally are also getting hammered that I've hunted in the past, and I straight up struggled. And so even trying to get away from people, I even got away from people this year and still hunted some great units and still wasn't seeing bucks. And man, it was just a suck fest. I mean, it wasn't hard physical hunts, but it was just driving around, getting out of the truck, walking here and there, looking over edges of units that people often don't look at. And I've talked about it a million times on my podcast. It's the chunks of those units that a lot of times you have to go work to get. Maybe it's just a 100 or 200 yard walk, but it takes a little bit more effort than just getting out, walking to the edge of the landing, and you can't see everything. So those little chunks are where I find a lot of my success that you can't see from those landings, and nothing was producing. And so I went over to Idaho right as the weather starts to hit in Oregon and at the coast anyways. And for those that don't know, blacktail hunting can really, really churn on with rain. I mean, it really does. The deer are out. I've got my own theories on that, but the deer are out, and it's just great hunting. I mean, really, it's a road hunter's dream. If that's your thing and you just like to road hunt, all you need is a rainy day, and you'll probably get it done. And I was leaving for Idaho around the 20th of October, and the rain was just starting to hit, and I'm like, man, I'm leaving at the wrong time. Like, there's going to be some big bucks killed this weekend, and I'm going to be 14 hours away, and I just had a feeling I'm making a mistake, but also I love mule deer hunting with the rifle. It's one of my favorite things. And so hit the road, and just a few days after I hit the road, I start getting these text messages of these bucks. And I'm like, God damn it. Why am I over here when I knew the hunting was going to churn on over here? And James killed a nice 3-point. Brad Powell killed a forky. And there was a lot of bucks getting posted on Facebook and big bucks too. And I'm thinking, God dang it, man. And so I come back from Idaho after getting my butt kicked, as I said on the last episode, and killed a buck over there. And I'm kind of, I still want to go out and go fill my last tag for the year. But as I processed my mule deer, I just kind of lost the motivation. Not because I was tired of the work or anything, but solely because Kim and I had enough meat. It's just her. It's just me. We don't have kids. And I just felt that, I don't know if me shooting another deer would be worth it. I'll be happy to take, Kim out. I will never tell her no when it comes to hunting. I'm trying so hard to be the best, advocate for her and don't pressure her at all. And she's not much of a hunter. She does it to make me happy, and I think she has a little bit of an interest in it. But she likes watching the deer get broken down and skinned and stuff like that. She likes that part. But as far as getting up early and freezing your balls off, she's not into that. So, but long story short, I was kind of just at peace with what I'd done this year and the amount of meat I put in the freezer. I had a bear. I completely gave away the bear. Everything. Skull, meat, everything. And if I would have kept that meat, which I'm glad I didn't, but if I would have kept that meat, there definitely wouldn't have been much of a reason for me to go deer hunting outside of just killing something for my own ego, or that's kind of the way I felt. And so I kind of was just sitting on the couch watching TV, and she's like, I want to go hunting. And I'm like, whoa, okay, yeah. Well, I'm not seeing shit around where I've been going. It's been a complete bad year. So I'm like, let's go try something different. So I throw her in the car or the truck, and we go head down and head to a spot that I had been to maybe 15 years ago, back when I was really heavy into deer hunting. And this is just a couple years out of high school. I was over hunting this area, and I completely forgot it. And so I couldn't remember what roads to take. I couldn't, units were there that weren't there. It just, nothing looked the same. And I'm like, shit, I need to make a phone call to a buddy I know hunts this area, and so he was gracious enough to be like, yeah, you're kind of in the right area, but head over here. And so I did, and found a road to walk out with a couple units, and it was, half an hour worth of daylight left, and it was blowing hard, and it was trying to rain or sunshine. I didn't really know what it wanted to do, but it was definitely trying to do something. It was blowing and cold and cloudy, and you could see rain off in the distance. And Kim told me to turn on the seat warmers as we were heading up, and she had actually fell asleep. So I walked about 15 yards from the truck out this road, and was just glassing. And it was a blocked off road. No one could go out this road, and we were parked at it too. And so no one was really, hopefully no one was going to bother us. And just glassed and didn't see anything. And then about 20 minutes before the end of before the daylight ended, there was a herd of about 4 does that fed off out of the timber onto the edge of the unit. And I'm like thinking, gosh, where's a buck? It's late enough, it's cold enough. There's been plenty of bucks getting shot with those, a lot of swelling up buck necks, and just it's time. It's time. They should be chasing right now. And so I'm like just watching them, and I watched them for about 5 minutes, and then it's getting darker and darker, and I'm like, man, I should probably act like those does have a buck, going over there and stalking those does as close as I can get without busting them, getting myself in position for a shot isn't a bad idea, knowing I only have a little bit of daylight left and what I'm doing now isn't producing a buck. And so I went back to the truck. I told Kim I'm going to go walk out here, and she kind of mumbled something. She was still half asleep. And I told her, I have some does over here. And she just wanted to stay in the truck and, keep her butt and back warm with the seat warmers. And so I walk out there, and it's close to half a mile. And by the time I get out there, it's 10 minutes worth of shooting light. And I'm like, okay, well, about 150 yards from these deer, I could see pretty much if there's a buck with them, I could see it. And just as I'm pulling up my binos and I'm crawling on my belly on a muddy landing at this point, and literally stalking these does, like pretending there's a buck with them. And basically, I pull up my binos, I look at the does, and then I pull down my binos, and I look farther, about another 250 yards, 300 yards, something like that, farther down the edge of the unit. And there's something that wasn't there before. It was white. And I'm like, man, that's gotta be a something, And so I pull up, and it's the nose of a buck, and the neck and the nose. And I'm like, oh shit, like that's a good buck. And, it's not a giant, but it got me excited. And I couldn't tell how big he was because my scope was fogged up completely. I got into that last podcast. Well, it was way worse sitting in a warm truck, condensating on the inside, fogging up on the inside. Being in a warm truck was the worst thing I could have done. And so I pull up my scope, and I'm prone, put my scope on it. I can't see it. And I'm on 12 power, and I'm thinking, shit, like, is he still there? Pull up my binoculars. He hasn't moved. I just can't see him. So I dial it into 24 power, and I put it right on some brush and some logs where I knew it was close to, and then I can start seeing the outline of the deer. And once I pick him out, it's clear as day. Dial back down to 12 power, dial my scope, and I remember 1.9 for 400 yards, and I just take my time, and everything's cool. The buck's broadside. I'm like, dude, this is so cool. Like, I wasn't planning on shooting a buck, but if I went back to go get Kim, this guy's not going to be here when I get back, and this is definitely a good buck, and I'd be stupid not to shoot him. So, the thoughts of should I or shouldn't I left pretty quickly when I saw how good of a buck this was, and it was if Kim was with me, I definitely would have told her to shoot it too. And so I shot and felt good about it. Shot broke perfectly. Crosshairs weren't moving. I even had my shooting bag on me, and so I used that to just, everything was rock steady and nothing. And I'm like, what the hell just happened? And then I'm thinking, God dang it, he's going to be gone. So I pull up my binoculars, and then he's just still standing there, stiff as a board. Hasn't even moved. Hasn't even twitched. And I'm thinking, should I freaking run? Did I just shoot it scruffy, or should I jack another shell in? And that was about a 2-second thought. I was like, shit, did I just mess up, or is this the world's dumbest deer? And the whole way up, I was on Onyx. I second guessed myself for about 2 seconds. I'm like, no. I know where I'm at. I know I'm good. Jack another shell in, and dial my scope back down to 0, hit 0, redial to 1.9, and made sure everything was good, and get the gun on him. He starts to churn right as I'm starting to squeeze the trigger, I'm not bragging about this shot. I'm not proud of this shot. But it was the shot I took for better or for worse, and he was facing directly away from me when that gun went off, and it was an absolute. I don't even like saying this, but it was a 12 ring of a Texas heart shot, man. It was. I might have ruined. I ruined less meat on that shot than you would have shooting it through the scapula. 100%. Like, I ruined less than a handful of meat. Like, a 2 mouth bites worth of meat. I mean, it was a perfect up that turd cutter. You couldn't have put that bullet up there better. And he dumped immediately. And I'm like thinking, hell yeah, dude. Like, that is best case scenario. And so I ended up ruining best meat with not the best shot opportunity. And thinking, okay, so that bullet hit exactly where I was aiming, but why didn't the first one hit? And I'm thinking the only thing that it could have been is that I dialed to 0.9 instead of 1.9 like a freaking idiot. And so I don't know if that's what happened, but that's really the only thing that makes sense because both those shots felt perfect. I know nothing weird happened, and it had to be user error on the scope. That's literally the only thing that it could have been. And so I immediately call my buddy and tell him, hey man, thanks for the tip. I just shot a great buck, and he's like, sweet. I'm like, I'll send you a picture. I didn't know I had service the whole time, and so I walk up to the deer and find him. He's dead, and I had to put another one in his neck because he was still breathing a little bit, and I didn't want him to suffer. And so I put another one in his neck real quick at 5 yards, and really small bodied deer. First thing I got up to him was like, he's got a really nice rack, but a really small body. I made a joke in Idaho about Bubba's buck being really, really big bodied, but having a decent rack. Not giant rack, not a small rack, but just a good representation of a 4-point rack. And I'm thinking the body is way bigger than the rack. Like, they don't match. I'm like, why couldn't you shoot a giant rack deer with a tiny body as far back in here as you are? This is going to be such a bitch to get this thing out of here. Why couldn't it be the size of a dink, but more meat. That's why you're there is the meat, obviously. But it was just a joke. And I'm thinking, wow, maybe it's karma, I wish this would have been the biggest body deer I'd ever seen, but it was like the size of a fork and horn, like a first year forky. It was 120 pounds. It wasn't very big. And I drug it to the road, and as I was talking on the phone, I drug it to the road. It was that easy. I'm like, man, this is a small body deer, but he's got some good genetics or something. And so I call Kim, I wake her up, and I told her, hey, I just shot a buck. And she's like, oh, I thought I heard a gunshot. I didn't know if I was dreaming or not. And then I heard another one, and I definitely knew that was you because that's you. I'm not afraid to let the lead fly sometimes. So I called her over, and she brought some stuff I needed to help process the deer, and she couldn't find my knives, and I'm thinking, God damn it, I have a fillet knife in my pack, the one that Trent makes fun of me for. I have this fillet knife. I'm gonna have to do this whole freaking deer with a fillet knife, which I'm like, then it'll be different because I've never done a whole deer with a fillet knife. It'll be quick for some parts. It's gonna be a pain in the ass for others. But we'll just see how it works. And for skinning, obviously, it was a giant pain in the ass. But for most of it, it actually wasn't that big of a deal. I had to sharpen it a couple times because running a fillet knife through against bone isn't good. But it took me probably half an hour to get that deer in my pack quartered out. And I packed him out in one trip as Kim carried my sweatshirts and stuff because the weather had actually broke and had turned into a nice sunset. And it was just a beautiful evening. I mean, it was a little chilly, but packing out a deer, I did it in a T-shirt. And it was just such a freaking awesome moment. That was the first deer my wife had ever seen me shoot. She had never actually been a part. Well, she wasn't even really a part of that one, but she had never been on a hunting trip where I had killed a deer. I've always taken her out and tried getting her a deer. And so that was kind of special. She watched me break it down, which she's always fascinated by. And we stopped and got some food, and just it was so I don't know, just a perfect end, I guess, because on the way up, she's like, can we stop and get some food? I'm like, we don't really have time, but, it's your hunting trip. We'll do whatever you want. If we spend the rest of the night here eating food and having dinner and just spending time with each other, that was our hunting trip. I'm totally fine with it. And so we ate and we went up on the hill, and it was just kind of that, like go with the flow, no pressure. It was just a great evening of hunting with Kim, and really a special night for me. And she even was able to take some photos of me and the deer for me, and that was the first time that had ever happened. And I don't know, it's just a really, really cool ending to my year. I felt bad because she was in the truck and she was supposed to be shooter, but literally you snooze, you lose. I did that in Idaho. Bubba shot a buck, and she did that, and I shot a buck. So the deer was ended up being a 3x4, real nice buck, one of my better blacktails, top 3, and just super lucky, super grateful, and that allowed me to, the freezer still has room in it, but there's room for a spring bear and probably like maybe another. I mean, it's a pretty big freezer, but maybe another elk. But we have enough meat now, especially with the meat prices and inflation and all that shit. Meat is freaking outrageous right now. So, we're happy to supply friends and family and neighbors that like and enjoy the meat but can't get out and do it themselves. I've already given a few packages away, and even a can of venison, antelope, and it just we have plenty, and we had a great year, and so I'm able to bless other people with great, awesome opportunity of eating meat that they can't get at the store, and that's just a really good feeling. I almost get just as much as giving it away as I do eating it. There's science to that. You obviously you have endorphins and that and dopamine or whatever they call it that gives you a good shot of dopamine when you do something exciting or cool like that. And so obviously there's a chemical brain reward for it, but the heart is really there. I mean, these are folks that are old, can't get out and hunt, or raising a family and are working full time, running a business, or veterans across the street. I mean, there's a lot of good causes and folks to give meat away to, and this is going to be a year where I'm able to do that, and then also keep enough for myself and Kim to have meat literally every week if we wanted. I mean, I had I'm trying shit I never even tried before. Like I had elk meatballs, so I made elk burger obviously and turned them into meatballs, and then tried it in like a fettuccine Alfredo. It was okay. It wasn't that good. And but I'm trying new shit with my meat and having fun and cooking for others, and I have a ton of steak to be able to do carne asada tacos, which is one of my favorite dishes, and that takes like 2 packages of steaks every time you do that, and so that shit goes quick when you do that. But we have enough to do that fucking every week, until next hunting season, and so hopefully I pray to God I draw my spring bear tag, but that'll be icing on the cake. I'll keep a few roasts from that, and I'll probably donate the whole thing to the Veterans Association again. And it just was really cool. So outside of that, blacktail season was the worst blacktail season I've ever had. It was the hardest blacktail season I've ever had. Before I really, really put down the rifles and just focused on bow hunting, you could give me 1 or 2 days and I'd go out and kill a buck. It didn't matter. I could kill a buck almost every day if I wanted to. I mean, it was that automatic, and just focusing on elk so much the last 8 years, whatever it's been, and just not focusing on rifle hunting blacktail. It's crazy how fast you lose the knowledge, the woodsmanship, the idea of where to look, when to look. This isn't getting pressured. This has been logged. This has been shut out. This has been blocked off. You lose all those little nuances that help you become a good deer hunter. Even the glassing skills, just everything kind of just got a little rusty, and I wasn't really expecting that at all. I went into it thinking that me and Brad Powell were going to treat deer like elk this year. We were both going to shoot 130-inch bucks, and that is pretty ambitious. But we made the agreement that we were going to put in the work. And we were both going to kill our biggest blacktails. And when I got the news that the area that we hunt down towards Canyonville was a no-go, I'm thinking, well, shit, what am I going to do now? Hunt the freaking coast every day? And so I did, and I got my butt kicked. And so it's just crazy. You got to use it or lose it. I mean, deer hunting to a point, especially locally, yes, if you have a good unit, typically that unit's going to be good until it's overgrown. And I'm sure that was probably still the case in a lot of my spots, but the deer weren't where they should have been this year, or weren't where I expected them to be, or had seen them in the past. And that little piece of history that I've used just didn't work for me this year. And so I think it was the fact that this is the first blacktail rifle tag I've had, and I don't know how long, many years, and it would just, I struggled. And so I never even expected to struggle like that in my life for blacktail, but I did, and got a little humble pie. I don't know if I'll blacktail hunt again with the rifle next year. Maybe I will. I don't know. I mean, I did have a good time, but I just really love blacktail hunting with a bow and in rifle hunting mule deer. It's just kind of like my happy medium, give one way, take from the other, and it's just I don't know. It's just what it is. And outside of that, I got my scope sent off to Vortex. They sent me a remanufactured, basically it's like brand new Viper PST Gen 1, which is what I sent them. And mine was a first year Gen 1. I bought it like right when they came out. So it was pretty old. And I left a note on there. I was like, can you please replace this? I don't trust it anymore. Like, just replace it. And they did. So thank you to Vortex. Vortex does, and they brag about it, they do have a great, fantastic warranty system, but you're going to use it sooner or later. You're going to use it. And it almost cost me a really good blacktail this year, and really disappointed in that scope. I've got scopes on some, I used to have a scope on my gun that I sold a long time ago, and it was, my dad's dad might have shot it, but it was an old television screen square scope, Redfield, I believe, and great scope, and that thing was older than shit, and just a great scope, man, and you just kind of don't have that longevity with Vortex. You're going to have an issue sooner or later, and even though they took care of me, I mean, the fact is I had to use the warranty. This is and fact of the matter is I need to use the warranty again for my Viper binos, because the eyepiece, the very first day I ever used them, like last year, the eyepiece broke. They fell out of my bino harness at like 2 feet. Like, I wasn't even fully standing up, and they fell out of my bino harness as I was crouched over, landed on the eyepiece, and it like became angled and never worked itself out. So for the very first freaking day I had my Vortex Vipers, they broke. And so, man, I'm not how do I put this? I'm so freaking forgetful. I'm afraid to buy Swaros or something nice like that because I'm going to lose it. I lost my fucking Leupold spotting scope this year. I'm pretty sure. I can't find it. I think I left it up where I shot my buck, my blacktail buck with Kim. I'm pretty sure I left it right next to the truck, and it's gone. So that's like a $1,200 Leupold SX2 Kenai back when it came out. It's cheaper now, I think, but that was $1,000 freaking spotting scope, man. And if I did that with a Swaro, oh my gosh, I don't know what I would do. I'm pissed I did that with my Leupold. I've had that thing for, I don't know, man, freaking 12 years, maybe more. I don't know how long I've had it. I mean, you can't even tell what brand it is. It's so blemished and worn down, and it's heavier than the Hubs of Hell, but it's been a great spotting scope, and it's like, shit, I completely lost that and my tripod to go with it, which the tripod was a piece of shit too. So, it's still a loss of like probably a $600, $500 worth of value, but I'm not going to do that to Swaros and leave my binos somewhere or leave a friggin' $2,000, $3,000 spotting scope somewhere. So I think I'm probably just going to stick with Vortex in the meantime, and just, I'm not responsible enough to, this is why we can't own nice things. That's the, I say that about myself. This is why I can't own nice things, because I'm a freaking idiot. So, but outside of that has been my year, and now I'm focused on cougar and coyote and like basically predator hunting with the Fox Pro. And I still have a turkey tag in my pocket, which I would really, really like to try turkey jerky. And so even though I'm not looking for more opportunities, I do want to enjoy the woods. I do want to enjoy the chase and the pursuit and opportunities that are still out there. I want to get a turkey with my bow. I think I've only shot one with my bow. I mean, I know that sounds bad because I like bow hunting and stuff, but turkeys are so dumb around here. You can pretty much knock on anybody's door and go shoot one, but there's some spots where you can go hunt some that are definitely smarter, and I think that would be fun, and trying some new things with like turkey jerky and stuff like that. Maybe actually trying to interact with the turkeys and calling them and learning the language there. I don't know if I'd really be interested in that, but just playing around with calls and stuff. I think that kind of just dipping my big toe in the water with turkeys might be fun. I'm not going to buy a bunch of turkey shit and go out and become a turkey hunter or anything, because it's just not. I don't know, man. Usually turkey season coincides with spring bear season or deer season, so I'm not, or elk season, so I'm not doing it. But right now I don't have any tags, so it's kind of like, well, maybe I will. But outside of that, I'm just super grateful. I've had a lot of great feedback from everybody this year. I've had some really good feedback about the solo episodes, so I appreciate all the feedback. Messages are great, and if you guys want to leave a review and let me know what you think about this episode or the previous episodes, that is really the place to do it. If you want to see the podcast grow and reach more people, leaving me those nice comments that you guys leave me on Instagram and Facebook or wherever, the best place to do that is on iTunes. And I know I can't interact with you on there, but if you guys want to see the show grow and get promoted more, I believe that leaving reviews on iTunes does help whatever the algorithm or whatever it may be. I don't even know really exactly how it works, but I'm pretty sure it does. It does have an algorithm or some sort of fact like that. And if you don't want to do that, that's fine. That's totally cool. I really, I mean, I care, but I don't care. It's not like the end of the world, but it sure would be great to have a few more reviews. And as soon as I can get some hat availabilities, I've actually had quite a few people reaching out about hats lately, out of the blue, because it was like months and months and months that I haven't had hats. I've been out of hats, and no one asked. And then like within the last 2 months, I've had like 6 or 8 people want to ask me for hats, and I'm like, dude, I don't have any. I haven't had any. The hat I'm wearing is like the last hat I have, and so I will try and get more hats. And so if you want hats, let me know, because I can order for the folks that want them. I won't have to order 1,000 of them, or $1,000 worth of them, I should say, and that will not only help me not have to spend $1,000 on hats, but I can order more precise and not have to fork out a bunch of money and then try and get it back later. So outside of that, guys, appreciate you for listening. This is my 2022 season. Unless I kill a cougar or some other really cool animal like that, I am pretty much done big game hunting for the year. And already moving on to I already put in my tags. I'm already done putting in for my tags for Oregon for 2022. Me and Kim, I put her in as well. And we're done. And so I am now looking for opportunities in other states. I might pull the trigger on California deer this year. I got my buddy Wes that lives down there. I might need to go hit him up. I might try and go, to Idaho, somewhere different. I didn't buy the over-the-counter tag that I had last year in the 2 years ago that I've gotten twice. After this year, I just wasn't going to do that to myself again, and I'm going to try my luck on some pretty low odd tags, like 7% tags for non-residents in Idaho, and just see if I can draw a bomb tag and just go have some fun. Because there's still some really great draw opportunities in Idaho, and I'm just trying to figure out what those are and how to get the best tag for the best hunt I can and have the most fun. And Arizona is definitely on my list. Not this year. I'm not going to do it this year. I'll go over next year, 2023 technically, because it would be January 2023. And I think they're going to go through some reform on their tags as well. So we'll see at what capacity I'm able to do that on, if they change the OTCs or the quota or whatever it may be. It sounds like they're going to be changing some of the OTC availability and opportunities, especially for residents or non-residents. So we'll see about that. Me and my dad have been trying to plan a caribou hunt, but they're so booked out. You have to book out like 2 to 3 years in advance, which I'm totally fine with, but scheduling that's kind of been a pain in the ass. And so I really like to go hunt some other states like New Mexico for elk, Wyoming. I've got points in Wyoming now. I've got enough points. I've got 3 points in Wyoming for deer and elk, I believe. And man, that opens up some doors. Having 3 points definitely opens up some doors for some opportunities, and we'll see. Maybe I go over there this year. Who knows? But I think tag strategy episodes are going to be coming around the corner. Just letting you guys know what I'm up to. Bow reviews, man. I probably will do bow reviews. I will probably do bow reviews. I bought that aiming analyzer Mantis thing that I really was excited about last year. But honestly, just having turned the corner so hard against, gear and shit and just focusing on woodsmanship skills, I don't want to. But the money that I get off of YouTube does go a long ways towards buying more gear and hunt options, and just it does help me fund a lot of this and a lot of what I do, and it does make it worth my time. So doing those bow reviews, they absolutely do pay for themselves, and I'd probably be pretty stupid not to do them. So I just kind of talking through it. I'll probably do the bow reviews. I still got to do the spot hog trifecta. I'm not supposed to call it trifecta. Spot hog, whatever the hell, triple stack is what they're calling it. So I got to do that review. I'm actually kind of excited about doing that review, actually. So that's a product I've been waiting for a couple years to come out. But outside of that, guys, I appreciate you for listening. If you have any requests, yes, big announcement. So nothing is written in stone yet. I just talked to Trent last night from Born and Raised, and I have Ben. I don't know if he wants me to use his last name, but Ben, shout out to you. Was kind of, we started messaging a little bit last night. He's kind of getting his butt kicked elk hunting, kind of like I did when I started with a bow. I forget how many years it took me. It was 6 or 8 years, somewhere in there, and to get my first bow with a bow. And after that, they just started falling. Like it's been great since I got my first one down. It's been fantastic. So, just trying to help him get his first, or we're gonna maybe do a live episode Q&A. It basically would be a hybrid between a radio show that is live that you can call into, just like a radio show, and a podcast where there's a format, there's no commercials, obviously, and then there will be an upload later after it's all done. And we have room for multiple callers. We have room for multiple guests. I think that Trent and I, and maybe even Brad Powell and I will probably do a mock or a practice session. And Trent and I are going to work. I know they've done similar things on the Born and Raised side. This is a little bit different. No one's ever done this before, and so we have to figure out how it's going to work technologically, but also logistically. And I'm not very techno savvy when it comes to all that shit. So you'd be surprised how long it took me just to set up my podcast when I started this thing. It took me a lot. It took me a long time just to figure it out, what a hell RSS feed is and all that crap. So it might take me a little bit, but we're going to be having, for sure, I will be doing a test episode on Podbean. Okay, very important. On Podbean. If you do not have Podbean, you have to download the app. If you do not have the app, you will not be able to listen to this episode live, and you will not be able to call into the episode live and be able to talk to me and whatever guests I have on. And the show's not PG. You guys obviously obviously by now have figured out that anything really flies on this podcast. And so it's not like we're going to be having to keep it PG. When you call in, you can say whatever you want. You can talk shit. You can ask a question. I really don't care. It's your time to have the mic, us to listen, and then for us to respond. And so I think it's going to be fun. I'm really kind of excited about this because the podcasting to me is kind of getting stagnant. It's kind of just like, God, it's just been around now. There's a million of them, and it's time to try something new. And I get excited about it. You can probably hear it in my voice. I'm more excited about that idea than I am coming out with a bunch of more episodes on podcasts that, they'll be the same quality that you've come to expect, but God damn, there's just a lot of podcasts anymore, man. And I've got 100 and something episodes, and I know some guys have thousands of episodes. It's just like, what do you talk about? I mean, for 1,000 episodes, I love talking hunting, but shit, like, what do you guys expect me to talk about for another 300, 400 episodes? I don't know, and it's just like, if I'm coming out with an episode just to come out with an episode, doesn't seem like I'm doing you guys a justice. And so this, to me, seems like the natural, not a transition, but kind of an evolution. It'll be one more layer onto the content that we provide. So we'll have live episodes, and we'll mix those in with pre-recorded regular podcast episodes. And I think that will be a great way to increase the amount of content that I'm offering to get different and more guests onto the show, but also get your questions, comments, whatever, suggestions, whatever it may be, whatever you want to call in and talk about. It could be politics. I really don't care. Whatever you want to hear about, if you want to call into the show, now's your time. And so let me know. I am begging you, let me know if that is something worth pursuing or something that you'd be interested in. And seriously, you got to let me know, because if I don't have feedback, I don't know where to go with it. And so outside of that, guys, I'm excited to actually announce that one. And I stretched this thing to 45 minutes or 42 minutes. I apologize. It probably could have been about a half an hour. But appreciate you, and I will definitely see you on the next one. Bye.